What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and J College Football Show. Week 4 is in the books, and so this is going to be a Week 4 recap. Quite honestly, it was just an weekend of college football. Now, even an weekend is still great. It's much like pizza. Even if it's bad pizza or just mediocre pizza, it's still good. That's how I feel about college football. But, compared to the awesome weekend that we had last week, yeah, this week was just okay. Still enjoyed it, still loved it, still watched every second of it, but could have been better. So yeah, typical episode today. Going to recap. We'll recap one game on Friday, then we'll recap a lot of the games from Saturday. I will recap my betting, which was better, but still not great, and then we will finish off with Dude, Are You High? So let's have a good wake and bake sesh and get right into it. All right, we're gonna start with Friday games, and really, there's only one game. We'll touch on another one of these later. The one game I will talk on, Iowa at Rutgers. Iowa comes away with a 38-28 win, and you look at that score, and this is not going to come as a shock to Gopher fans. Uh, but a Rob Smith defense is not playing too well. Rob Smith is the different defensive coordinator for Rutgers. So far has not been a great season for him as the DC, and as Gopher fans know, it wasn't necessarily great with him either when he was the Gophers DC. Um, Especially if you're allowing Iowa to score 31 points, that's not good. Now I say 31, even though the final score said 38. I'm not going to put the 100-yard kickoff return that Iowa had to open the game against him, unless he has something to do with the special teams that I'm not aware of. I'm not counting those 7 points to get him, but against him, but 31 points to Iowa is not great. And then to also allow Mark Gronowski to have season highs of, now granted, this is not a crazy number for him for it to be a season high, but to have a season high of 186 passing yards and a season high 55 yards rushing, and I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns, not great. You should not be allowing Mark Gronowski to have his season highs against you. Now, you could argue the other side of 186 is not that bad to be allowing, and for that to be a season high is also kind of embarrassing. And I agree, I definitely agree. But at the same time, it was a season high for him, and that's not great. Now, I mentioned it previewing this game. I've mentioned it earlier. I mean, this Rutgers team is just opposite of what you would expect. You typically would expect the defense to be the strength of the offense to have its ups and downs, but it's completely opposite this year. The offense has looked great, and the run game was an issue in this game. I think they had like 30 carries for 70 yards or something along those lines. Not great at all. But unless he's playing against the Gophers, I got to give a shout out to Ethan Kaliakmanis. He is on pace to have an absolutely career year, and it's nice to see him have some success. Because when he left, there was no hard feelings when he left. Completely understood why he left. Was wishing him nothing but luck and success. And again, unless he's playing the Gophers. So to see him have such a great start to the season, happy for him. Love to see it. In this game, I mean, he wasn't the greatest. He still threw for like 330 yards, but did not throw any touchdowns. Did have a couple rushing touchdowns. Um, but it's great to see him have some success now. That being said, Rutgers does travel to Minnesota next week. I hope he throws for 50 yards, 3 interceptions, and Minnesota blows out Rutgers. But in every other game, I hope he plays amazing. All right, moving on to Saturday's games, starting with the noon slot. Wisconsin is terrible. It's time we have that discussion. Wisconsin is a bad football team. How they were double-digit favorites in this one, I don't know if they closed at 10.5, but I do know it got up to 10.5 at one point. The fact that, and it started at like 6.5 or something. So for it to go up that much was insane because Wisconsin is bad. Now I think their defense is fine. I don't think it's necessarily bad or great, but it's fine. But the offense is bad, and that offensive line is bad. Uh, Wisconsin had 1.5 yards per carry. They allowed 6 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. They were 3 of 17 on third down. and 3.8 yards per play. I don't think that, and maybe they are just that good. I didn't think that Maryland's defense was that good this season. I mean, like going into this game, I wasn't sure if Maryland was actually that great of a defense, and maybe it is because Wisconsin's offense is that terrible that Maryland's defense looks so great. Um, we'll we'll see as the season goes on, but maybe Maryland's defense is just actually really good. I do want to give a shout out to Malik Washington, true freshman coming in there, and he starts the season 4-0 with Maryland, and he has just been just consistent. He hasn't been over the top great, but he also has not been bad. So I got to give him credit. He's completing, I think it's like 59.7% of his passes. He's completing 60% of his passes. He's thrown for over 250 yards a game. He's only thrown one interception. He's having a great season. Again, he's not blowing you out of the. You're not watching him like you do Jaron Sangapulatele, and you're like, whoa, this guy is making some crazy throws and all this stuff. Uh, but that being said, he has played very well for Maryland, and that's always fun to see. But Wisconsin, my goodness, QB play for them has not been great. Billy Edwards got hurt in the first game. He actually did. I think it was he started this game, played one series, and then was done the rest of the game. Danny O'Neal, who has started the last two games, I mean, he tried in this one. He ended up getting hurt as well, so they had to bring in a third string quarterback. Wisconsin has a bye this next week, and it could not come at a better time because it is just a disaster right now. Hopefully, Billy Edwards or Danny O'Neal can get healthy on this bye week because otherwise they're going to be rolling with the third string quarterback, and it's never a good sign when you're having to roll with the third string. Another team that might not be good, and it hurts me to say this, Clemson. Clemson might be very bad. They lose to Syracuse 34-21. Um, they need Tyler from Spartanburg to turn the season around again because it has gotten bad. Uh, Defense, you thought with Tom Allen coming in that it was going to be an elite defense, and they allowed. Now, I do think Syracuse has a somewhat decent offense, but to allow 34 points and 435 yards of offense, that's not encouraging. Now, Steve Angeli did go down with a non-contact injury. You don't know what it is at the moment, but you suspect it's probably an Achilles. Uh, I don't want to make I don't want to throw that out there that it's an official thing, but just from what you've seen and what you've seen other people, it's probably an Achilles. So that's not great to see coming out of this game. But Syracuse offense was humming, and defense for Syracuse I think might still be an issue. And it feels weird to say this because Clemson had like 500 yards of offense, and that's not great for Syracuse. But they only allowed 21 points, so shout out to them for that. Um, but it feels weird to see this because there was 500 yards of offense. Clemson's offense has to be better. To go 4 of 18 on third and fourth downs, not great. They did have two turnovers in this game, which also does not help when you're trying to mount a comeback. Um, and while Clemson lost this game and has moved to 1-3 to start the season for the first time under Dabo Swinney, the biggest losers coming out of this game is actually Georgia Tech and LSU because that win against Clemson is looking less and less impressive as the as this season is starting to play out. Uh, what was supposed to be the game of the day and was, or the game of the morning, I should say, and was holding up for a little while. Texas Tech and Utah. Texas Tech comes away with a win, 34-10. And we thought this was going to be kind of an offensive game. I think a lot of people, I should say, I didn't think I did. I thought this was going to be flip flop the scores, and that's kind of what I was expecting. I thought this Utah offense was going to thrive, and I thought Texas Tech was going to have a huge wake up call against this Utah defense and struggle. Instead, both offenses struggled for, well, in Utah's case, the whole game. For Texas Tech, the first three quarters. Um, in the first half combined, there was 5 turnovers between the two teams. Texas Tech had 9 penalties for 88 yards, and the score was 10-3, Texas Tech. The fourth quarter is when Texas Tech's offense finally came alive. They scored on their final 4 drives of the game, and I'm not going to say that there's a QB controversy in Texas Tech, but there might be a QB controversy in Texas Tech. Baron Morton went down with injury. Freshman Will Hammond took over and went 13 of 16 for 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, and added 60 yards on the ground. The dude was balling. He looked good. And it was weird. It was weird to see a Utah defense just get absolutely dismantled by an offense because you just don't normally see that. And another thing you don't normally see from a Utah team is an explosive offense, or at least the last few years. And that's what they've been so far this year, is an explosive offense. And they were not today. Uh, Devin Dampier did not look great. Utah had 4 turnovers in this game. It just was it was brutal to watch that Utah offense that has thrived all season. In the end, defensive struggle for most of the game for both teams. Like I said, Utah just gave up a bunch in that fourth quarter. But a sloppy game from Texas Tech. They had 2 turnovers, but they also finished the game with 14 penalties for over 120 yards. Imagine what could have been if Texas Tech did not have all those penalties and those 2 turnovers. Imagine what the score would have been. Texas Tech really impressed me this weekend because I really thought that this is the game that going into this game that Utah was going to announce basically, here I am, I'm the team to beat in the Big 12. And instead it was Texas Tech. Uh, really impressed with them. Uh, SMU 24, TCU 35. I just gotta say this right off the bat. SMU, I know, is in the ACC, but I have to constantly remind myself that they are in the ACC because when they played Baylor, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a good Big 12 matchup this weekend. And when I see TCU and SMU, I think, oh, that's going to be a great Big 12 matchup this weekend. SMU is not in the Big 12, but they feel like such a Big 12 team that I have to remind myself they are constantly, they are in the ACC. They are in the ACC. Uh, it, they need to make that jump. The Big 12 needs to make a swap somewhere. I don't know who they would swap out, but SMU needs to be a Big 12 team. All right. TCU comes away with the win. Shout out to Eric McAllister. 8 receptions, 254 yards, 3 touchdowns. SMU's defense might be an issue. That's 2 games against Power 4 opponents where they have allowed 40, I think it was 48 to Baylor. Yeah, 48 to Baylor in double overtime now, double overtime. So I guess, that adds a little bit. And then 35 to TCU. Now, you look at the rest of the season, and I guess you could say that these are probably the 2 best offenses that SMU is going to face. Regardless, they got absolutely torched. So their defense might be an issue the rest of the season. So we'll see how this goes for them. Um, I mean, Sawyer Robertson, I think he went off for 400 plus yards and 4 touchdowns in that double overtime game. Josh Hooper just threw for 5 touchdowns and nearly 400 yards. I mean, it just absolutely torched. It's going to be an issue. Kevin Jennings has not impressed me so far this season. He's been a little turnover prone. He's thrown 5 interceptions and he's lost a fumble. I'm not I'm not loving the Kevin Jennings experience this year. Last year it was so fun. He was electric. But this season so far he's left a little to be desired. I was hoping he would take that next step forward, and so far been a little turnover prone. I do think that SMU could still finish. They're 2-2 right now, but I do think they could finish the season 8-4. I mean, that is a possibility for them, but that defense needs to get right. That defense has a lot of issues they need to work out. Again, I'm going to say it. They need to make the jump to the Big 12. SMU needs to be a Big 12 team. I don't. I'm constantly having to remind myself that they are not. Okay, afternoon games. Had a couple of good matchups actually in the afternoon slot. Michigan at Nebraska and Auburn at Oklahoma. We will start with Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan comes away with a win, 30-27. And I mean, the beginning to this game could not have started any worse for Nebraska. Got all the way down to like the Michigan's 5 yard line, 6 yard line, somewhere right in there, and turned it over on downs. Went for it on fourth and short and didn't get it. Second drive, missed a 44-yard field goal, and then on the third drive, threw an interception. Just a brutal first quarter for Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, I don't want to say he played great because you watched the game and it wasn't whatever, but at the same time, it's hard to say that he didn't play great because he did throw for over 300 yards. And that offensive line for Nebraska is not great. 7 sacks allowed, 9 tackles for loss. They need to get that figured out. But it's not even the offensive line that needs to get figured out, it's also their defensive line that needs to get figured out. They allowed 290 yards on the ground at 9.4 yards a carry. So on offense, you're allowing 7 sacks, not 2, not 1, whatever, those are fine. No, 7. And then nearly 300 yards on the ground at nearly 10 yards a carry. That needs to be fixed immediately for Nebraska. So it's hard to say, like I said, that Dylan Raiola didn't play great just because he was under pressure a lot. And it's hard to play good when you're under pressure. So for him to have the game that he did, I'm going to give him kudos for that. Now on the other side, Bryce Underwood, I mean, I think what we're going to see from Bryce Underwood this year is you're going to look at his stat line and say, huh, not that great. But when you watch him play, you think, oh, he's playing pretty good. I just think the weapons around him are going to continue to be an issue all season. And because of the weapons around him, we are just going to see his numbers not be as great as maybe you think he actually played when you watch the game. He only threw for like 105 yards, I think. 12 of 23, 105, or something along those lines. That's not a great stat line. Uh, he did add 61 yards on the ground and a touchdown, but I just think the rest of the season, because of the weapons around him, his stats may not be as great as him actually playing. Now, for Nebraska, if they don't get these offensive line and defensive line issues figured out, this is a 7-5 football team, which is where I had them coming into the season. And so far, from everything I've seen, I don't think I'm wrong on that one. Auburn at Oklahoma. Oklahoma comes away with the win, 24-17. This was the Jackson Arnold revenge game, and it didn't quite play out the way he had hoped. Um, Oklahoma's defense is really good, guys. They might be a top 5 defense. Brent Venables has worked his magic. Him calling the plays on defense was a good call. You can make the argument for like Baylor, where Dave Aranda took over play calling. Probably not the greatest idea. Brent Venables, it was a good idea. Clearly, we are seeing the fruits of that decision. I think Auburn could win this game or could have won this game if you flip the quarterbacks. Let's just say Oklahoma decided to hold on to Jackson Arnold, and Auburn had gotten John Mateer. I think Auburn would have won this game. And you might say, well, duh, that's obvious. I think you could actually switch Jackson Arnold out with not any other, I can't say that because there's been some whatever quarterbacks, but a lot of other decent quarterbacks who are not statues, that are not Drake Lindsay type deal, and they would have won this game. I think his throwing ability is what lost them the game. Now, he did get sacked 9 times, and I get that. It's hard to win a game and hard to be a good passer when you get sacked 9 times. At the same time, though, a few of those sacks were his fault of just holding on to the ball too long and not finding an open guy. And credit to Oklahoma's defense for playing great, playing absolutely great. But there was also a few throws that if he had made a better throw or made the right read, Auburn's winning this game. And I think just it's hard to pin the loss on one person. I just think if he had played a little better, if he hadn't missed, I think it was Coleman was wide open in the end zone and he just overthrew him. If you just had a better thrower in this game, Auburn would have won. And that's just my personal opinion. I think it's hard to pin it all on one person, but I think if Jackson Arnold had been better throwing the ball, they would have won. Uh, this one we are not even going to talk a lot on. Oregon 41, Oregon State 7. Oregon State is really, really bad. Oregon is really, really good. Those are my takeaways from this game, and that was my prediction going in. That's my only takeaway. Oregon State's really bad. Oregon's really good. Uh, Oregon State had 147 yards of total offense, and Oregon had nearly 600. Those are the only things you need to know about this game. NC State at Duke. Duke comes away with a 45-33 win. I mean, defense was optional in this one. Nearly 950 yards of total offense between the two teams. Just insane. CJ Bailey threw for like 364 yards. Hollywood Smothers added 120 on the ground or 120 plus. But CJ Bailey, 4 turnovers in this game, did not help. Uh, just brutal. Now, a couple of them came late in the game, and obviously, you're trying to do extra to come from behind and win it, but defense was optional in this one. It really was. And that, which is so surprising to say about a Manny Diaz team, is that the defense was optional in that. They did have 4 turnovers, so I have to give them credit there, but they still allowed him to throw for 364 yards, and they did allow Hollywood Smothers to get 120 on the ground. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Duke has as bad of a defense as they have. Um, Hopefully they get that turned around, but right now, NC State overs seem to be the trend the rest of the season. Their defense is just bad, but their offense is good enough to get into a shootout. I think NC State overs are the way to go. Moving on to the evening and late night games. South Carolina at Mizzou. Mizzou comes away with a 29-20 win. South Carolina's in trouble. The offense is absolutely broken. I know Sellers threw for like 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was also sacked 5 times. The running backs combined for 11 carries for 19 yards. They were 3 of 12 on third and fourth down. This offense is absolutely broken. Just an overall ugly performance so far this season. And I mean, Mizzou. I keep saying this. Mizzou might be really good, and that scares me because last year I was just the biggest Mizzou hater. Drinkowitz has just always bothered me, and so I hate to give credit to teams that I just don't care for, and that I guess you could say I am biased against. But Mizzou being good, just I have to give them that credit, and it hurts me to do so. Um, they do have a gauntlet coming up though, or a potential gauntlet so far. They do have to play Bama at home. They have to go on the road at Auburn, on the road at Vandy, which is weird to say is a difficult game. Home against Texas A&M, home against Mississippi State, who looks to be at least competitive this year, and then on the road at Oklahoma. At worst, Mizzou is finishing the season 6-6, but if they can split those 6 games right there, we're looking at a 9-3 Mizzou team, and they're going to be in playoff discussions at the end of the season. South Carolina has a much more manageable schedule moving forward, but I think they have so many issues that they need to get worked out, especially offensively. I'm not liking the outlook for the rest of the season. I think they should make a bowl game. That's about it. They were a team, I will say, I'm not to toot my own horn. I did have them as a team that was going to finish outside the top 25 at the end of the season, and that is looking to happen. Did I think they were going to be this bad? No. I thought they would start the season. I'm pretty sure I had them losing like one game. I think I had them going like 4-1 or 5-1 to start the season, and then just kind of petering out as the season went on. It is definitely worse than I expected. Miami and Florida. Miami 26, Florida 7. I mean, goodbye, Billy Napier. That's it. Season's over. He's done. He's fired. Whether or not they do it this week going into the bye or they wait until they play a 5th game so people can't redshirt and then fire him after the Texas game if they lose remains to be seen. I think you would like to fire your coach going into a bye week, but at the same time, I also understand the argument of wanting to at least keep him for 5 games so that players can't redshirt, which seems like a terrible thing to say, but it's a smart business move at this point, and college football has become a business. Uh, Florida's offense has just been brutal this season, and the defense has been good, but how long can the defense keep playing this good with the offense doing absolutely nothing? At some point, I don't want to say use the words give up because I want to give them more credit than that, but at some point they might give up if the offense is just not helping them at all. And so far, the offense has not been helping them. DJ Lagway in this game threw for 61 total yards. He was sacked 4 times. The offense as a whole was 3 of 19 on third and fourth downs, and they averaged 2.7 yards per play. Credit to Miami's defense for dominating. Shout out to Corey Heatherman for doing exactly what we thought he was going to do at Miami and have a great defense. So we got to give them credit for that. But my goodness, the offense has just been for Florida this year. It's not just that Miami's defense was so good, it's also that Florida's offense is just that bad. Carson Beck, he has had a great start to the season. I would say he was just fine in this game. He wasn't crazy. So that is a credit to Florida's defense. I think their defense is very good. But that offense has just not helped them at all. And I think, like I said, if Billy Napier does not get fired going into the bye week, he is definitely fired after the Texas game. All right. The game, or what was supposed to be the game of the night, Indiana and Illinois. And oh my goodness, Indiana might be really, really good this year. I I didn't think this was supposed to be the main screen game for the whole night. I didn't think I was going to have to move this this game aside and put on a different one. Just absolute domination, pretty much from start to finish for Indiana. I had them losing this game going into the season. I had them losing this game going into this game this week. Uh, this was an absolute ass kicking. Now, while Fernando Mendoza did go 21 of 23 for like 250 plus yards and 5 touchdowns, Illinois was down. They had a lot of injuries in the secondary. I do have to mention that part, but he still went 21 of 23 for 250 plus and 5 touchdowns. That also does not really give Illinois an excuse for not being able to stop the run. Uh, just that offense could do whatever they wanted for Indiana. It was embarrassing for Illinois. And Illinois having those, like I mentioned, injuries in the secondary, while it did not excuse the, lack of being able to stop the run, it also did not excuse the offense from not being able to get anything going either. Indiana's defense finished with 7 sacks and forced Illinois to go 1 of 10 on third down. They allowed 161 yards of total offense at just over 3.5 yards per play. Absolute statement win for Indiana. What a terrible loss for Illinois. I had Illinois as basically like the first team out, I'm pretty sure, when it came to the playoffs. I had them as finishing as like the fourth best team in the Big Ten. And I think I only had three Big Ten teams making the playoffs. Indiana might be taking that spot as the fourth best team in the Big Ten with the way they absolutely dismantled Illinois. Indiana looks like they might be really good. Arizona State 27, Baylor 24. I got to give credit to both teams in this one. Absolute. I thought this was going to be a shootout, and I said it going into the game, and it was a defensive struggle for most of the game. Uh, Arizona State has struggled to stop the pass so far this year, and in this game they held Sawyer Robinson to 250 yards, and that might seem like 250 yards is not great, but to stop Sawyer Robinson from throwing for 400 or 300 plus, that's an accomplishment. Um, Baylor has struggled to run the ball against teams so far this year, and Bryson Washington had 111 yards and 17 carries. In the spots that these teams were weakest, they improved because, again, look at Arizona State on offense. They have struggled to throw the ball this year, and they have struggled to find anybody outside of Jordan Tyson to get them any sort of production. And he was not. Yes, he led the team, or he might have been second with 6 receptions. He had 6 or 7. 7 was the most anybody had in that game. But the fact that somebody did have either 7 or 6 and he had the other, that's improvement. The fact that you had another option in the passing game. I will say though, the killer in this game, I think, and I'm going to say right now, if you play this game over again, I think Baylor wins. I think Baylor turning the ball over 3 times and Arizona State being able to turn those 3 turnovers into 3 field goals, which they would prefer touchdowns, but turn those into field goals. That's 9 extra points. They won by 3. Baylor also had a drive that got into the red zone and they turned it over on downs. I do think if you play this game again, Baylor comes away with a win, but an absolutely great win for Arizona State. Tough loss for Baylor. Tough loss for me, who had Baylor playing for the Big 12 championship and making the playoffs. Final game, Michigan State at USC. USC comes away with a win 45-31. Now, my concern going into this game for Michigan State was the fact that they got absolutely torched by Boston College, and I, rightfully so, think that USC's passing attack is much more deadly than Boston College's, and with that being said, they would throw the ball all over this Michigan State defense, and it would be an absolute blowout. Uh, Instead, they ran the ball all over this Michigan State defense. Now, Jaden Mayava was still 20 of 26, 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's not like they struggled to throw the ball. They just actively chose to run the ball and had great success. 37 carries, 283 combined yards, 3 touchdowns, and 7.5 yards, just over 7.5 yards per carry. I mean, just absolute domination from start to finish with this USC offense. And also, my concern going into this game was for the USC defense, who allowed Purdue to move the ball on them. Now, in the end, Purdue would turn the ball over in the red zone. Did it like 3 separate times, one of which was returned for a touchdown. But USC was a very bend, don't break defense. And I did think, and still do, think that Aiden Childs is a better quarterback than Ryan Brown, and that Michigan State's offense is better than Purdue's. So my concern was that they would take advantage of this soft USC defense and score a lot. And they kind of did. I mean, they kept it within 2 scores, but there was never really a time where you were worried that USC was going to lose this game. Aiden Childs was only 12 of 21, but he did throw for 212 yards, 3 touchdowns. It lessens my concerns, I guess, slightly-ish. I don't know. It's hard to say because they still allowed 31 points. He still threw for over 200 yards, even though his completion percentage was 3 touchdowns. This USC defense still remains a little bit of a concern for me. All right, some other games that I do want to touch on. Uh, North Carolina 9, UCF 34. It's not looking good for North Carolina. They are 2-2 this season. Their 2 wins have come against either FCS teams or Group of 5 teams, and they are outscoring them 61-9. And their 2 losses are against Power 4 teams, TCU and now UCF, which UCF's no powerhouse, and they have been outscored 82-23. It is not looking great for North Carolina. They are going to finish at the bottom of the ACC, and that is tough to see when it comes to the great like Bill Belichick. Another thing that was not encouraging to see, especially as a Gopher fan, was Cal getting absolutely shut out by San Diego State, 34-0. After losing a very winnable game to Cal, to see them turn it around and lose to San Diego State, that hurts a lot. I did not like seeing that score. I did not like seeing Sungapulatelli's stat line. That one hurt. This game happened on Friday. Tulsa 19, Oklahoma State 12. Yuck. That's all I have to say about this. Just yuck. Mike Gundy is gone. It's over. I don't know when they're going to fire him, but he's fired. He's gone. Tulane 10, Ole Miss 45. I mean, great win by Ole Miss, in my opinion. It does beg the question, did Ole Miss pick the wrong quarterback coming out of camp? Both quarterbacks played 2 games, essentially full games. Austin Simmons has looked significantly worse than Trinidad Chambliss, who has one of the best names in college football. I wouldn't be shocked if moving forward Trinidad keeps the starting job. I don't even know if Austin Simmons was healthy in this one or if he was actually benched because he was injured last week. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. But as of right now, it looks like they originally made the wrong choice at quarterback, but lucky for them, it did not bite them in the ass because they are currently 4-0. Arkansas 31, Memphis 32. I mean, I guess we can't be shocked that Arkansas lost this game just because it is Arkansas. And Sam Pittman's gone. Let's just be honest. Sam Pittman's gone. We knew that going into the season. There was no way he survives. Um, I think they're going to give him, they'll probably give him the respect of maybe stepping down, just because I feel like he has been. I think they love him at Arkansas, and because of that, they may allow him to just kind of retire at the end of the season. But I think he's gone. It's unfortunate. Arkansas led this game 28-17 at half, and it feels weird to say this because Arkansas got like 500 yards of offense in this game. But shout out to Memphis's defense. Held Arkansas to 3 of 10 on third down, turned the ball over 3 times, including a fumble at the Memphis 7-yard line with less than 2 minutes left in the game. Um, Congrats on Memphis. Huge win coming from behind and making a defensive stop at the end of the game. Northern Illinois 10, Mississippi State 38. Mississippi State, guys, is 4-0. They are for sure going to win more SEC games than they did last year. I said it going into the season as my bold prediction because they won none last year. But I'm going to go as far as to say they're going to go bowling this season. They will win 2 SEC games. All right, I don't particularly want to do this next segment, but unfortunately, well, I don't even want to do these next 2. I'm going to be honest, and you'll see why. But betting recap. I made the promise that we weren't going to go 1-4 again the rest of this season, and we almost went 1-4 again this week. Thank you, Michigan State, for covering because it was not looking great. This start Georgia State was not even close. I feel like the Oregon State first half over was. I feel like it was pretty close. Oregon State screwed me on that one. That's probably the one that hurts the most of the 3 losses because Tulane plus 12.5 also never had a shot. That one was over from the beginning. But we are 9-11 on the season, still down 3.5 units, but 9-11. We can turn this around. It's still early enough. We're still close enough. This can be turned around. Parlay also lost. That is 1-3 on the season, which I'll be honest with you, I don't expect the parlay to have a. While I am confident it's going to win every week, to be realistic, the parlay is probably not going to have a great winning percentage, but you hit 3 or 4 of them and you're coming out plus money as the season goes along. But to be 1-3, not ideal. We're still up 1.1 units, but we got to get that turned around quickly. So far, I've been holding true to my promise. We have not gone 1-4 since we went 1-4. But this weekend, let's try to go better than 2-3. Let's go 3-2. Let's go 4-2. Let's shoot for 5-0. I will be better. I will get back in the lab, and we will pick some good bets this week. All right, final segment, and usually my favorite segment, but the last 2 weeks it has not been my favorite. Dude, are you high? And this week I'm giving that award to multiple people. I am giving it to myself. This does happen once or twice a year where I do have to give the award to myself, unfortunately. But this also goes to a ton of other people. It goes to me and everyone else who had Clemson winning the ACC, had Clemson making the playoffs, had Clemson making the title game. Now, I'm not in this next group, but had Clemson winning the national title. But I am in this next group, and also had Cade Klubnik winning the Heisman. We could not look dumber. It could not look worse for us right now with Clemson starting 1-3. They're not going to win the ACC. At this point, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not making the title game. They're not winning the title. And Cade Klubnik is not winning the Heisman. And all of that just begs the question for everybody, me included, who predicted any of those happening. Dude, are you high? Maybe they turn it around, but I'm not confident. Tyler from Spartanburg needs to step in so that we don't all look so high for these predictions. Anyways, thanks y'all. Thank y'all for joining me. It was an okay for week 4 of college football. This next weekend is going to be phenomenal. I cannot wait. I will be back later this week to preview it. Have a good week.